That's the rays of the sun. And then there's the colors of the sun. That's what he's using. Various colors manifested by the sunlight. Thus, the four forms of the Lord are the Lord himself in entity, or the supreme living entity, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. Then the nature of the material energy can be understood, and if that focus is not there, the diluting influence is there. Pretty simple. And it's like lots of scriptural references to say that. We're back. O Lord of the Devatas, from Vishnu Purana, O Paramatma, I offer respects to your superior energy in all beings, which takes shelter of the gunas. Interesting, huh? Since the jiva is like a ray, it is situated on the sun globe. Its powers can be hidden by the intervention of Maya. Gives some scriptural reference. Yata kshetragya shakti sa tarata myena vartate. The jiva has various gradations, of covering of modes and so on. There is oneness of these three shaktis, but they are not similar completely, nor are their forms identical. But there is no fault in any of them. People of special discrimination should study the commentaries of Bhagavad Sandarbha. He's Jiva Goswami pointing them to. It's more elaborately discussed in Bhagavad Sandarbha, that is, Bhagavan and his potencies. So he just did a little mini here that goes back to the verse. Let's read the verse that he's making comments on. O unlimited Lord, the saintly devotees seek you within their own bodies by rejecting everything separate from you. Indeed, how can discriminating persons appreciate the real nature of a rope lying before them until they refute the illusion that it is a snake? So Sanatana Goswami is much simpler. The devotees seek you who exist, spreading yourself both inside and outside. O unlimited Ananta, you spread inside and outside everything. Do the devotees seek you only in their own bodies? No, not at all. They also seek you outside. Why? They reject that which is false, that is, Atma Tattva, known by non-devotees as Asat. It's emphasizing the rejection of the deluding influences and the less than conscious feature of the material covering, so they don't identify with it. If they do not reject it, pure knowledge will not arise. That is expressed in the second half of the verse. Without rejecting the false object, how can one accept the real object? The devotees first reject the false knowledge of the Lord and think, I'm not the Lord, I'm a servant. Then they can attain the Lord. Or, atat. Now this is not asat, it's atat. So tat means there's a pronoun that refers to the absolute truth. And atat means that which isn't. Atat can mean nirvana. Without rejecting nirvana, which is atat, one cannot attain the real object. Without rejecting the false snake, how can one realize the real snake? Or, how do those in knowledge search for the Lord? They search in the lotus of their hearts. Antarbhave. They reject everything unless it is related to you. Quote, by remembering the Lord, that happens automatically. Why should one attempt rejection? Answer, without rejection, the poison of the snake, without rejecting the poison of the snake, without rejecting karma and gyan, How can one perfect remembering the Lord? So summary. That's the end of that nice verse. And the summary is: focus your attention on the realm of spirit, whether it's the Jiva, Paramatma, personality of Godhead, or Krishna himself. And by that, one can have a proper understanding of the energies of the Supreme Lord in his different features, the external, marginal, and internal potencies. Text 29. My Lord, if one is favored by even a slight trace of the mercy of your lotus feet, he can understand the greatness of your personality. But those who speculate to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead are unable to know you, even though they continue to study the Vedas for many years. Now that's kind of restating verse number 3. Jnane prayasa udapasya. Throw far away speculative knowledge. So it's favoring, get eager for mercy and leave aside the speculative approach. And here in the purport, quotes Prabhupada's Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila chapter 6, text 84, where Prabhupada writes, Lord Krishna is very eager to bestow his mercy upon the conditioned living beings. Thank God. Who are uselessly struggling with the Lord's illusory energy, Maya. The conditioned soul struggles for happiness through sense gratification and for knowledge through mental speculation. Both processes ultimately bring him to a morose and hopeless condition. If the conditioned soul surrenders to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna and thus acquires even a trace of his causeless mercy, the whole situation is changed, and the living entity can begin his real life of bliss and knowledge in Krishna consciousness. Now that sounds like a Prabhupada purport. It's like giving hope in a situation that doesn't look so good. Sense gratification and mental speculation, useless. Both processes bring him to a morose and hopeless condition. Then comes the good news. If the conditioned soul surrenders to the lotus feet of Krishna, and thus acquires even a trace of his causeless mercy, the whole situation is changed, and the living entity can begin his real life of bliss and knowledge in Krishna consciousness. So here's Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur writes, only by devotion to Krishna is it possible for the jiva to attain a realization of the bliss of Brahman. So, all of in one sentence, the whole of Brahma's prayer is advocating bhakti, and this is one of those little advocating of bhakti things. The jiva must discard his material coverings, or identifying with the material coverings. Being blessed with a particle of mercy from your lotus feet, he can understand you as Brahman, meaning Para-Brahman. Matsya Purana says, gives the Sanskrit, my greatness, Mahima, as Para-Brahman, as taught by me and realized in the heart by you, will be understood. So bhakti is the means. Sridhar Swami explains this verse as follows. You will know the Supreme Brahman, that's Krishna, having received mercy from me. To obtain a particle of mercy of the Lord means that the Jnani performed mixed devotional service previously. The Lord bestows mercy of bhakti yoga to that jnani who gives up avidya and vidya, who gives up jnana and accepts pure bhakti. That person who prefers jnana and gives up bhakti and enthusiastically pursues Brahman, though he is guru for thousands of jnanis and studies scriptures and practices yoga for a long time, he does not know the true nature of the Lord. That's it for tonight. One of my nice favorite book distribution stories connects to this. Vrindavan has an influx of people from Rishikesh and Haridwar during the winter season because it's snowed in up there. And so they come down. So in our Krishna Balaram temple, the devotees there get to meet people from all over the world and from Rishikesh and Haridwar during the winter season. So one time, this was in the month of February, one yogi came with his followers to Krishna Balaram temple. And he was in the front and they were following behind him. And he saw the large book table and was interested, went over, looked, and pointed out to one of his followers to purchase Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. So he continued on. He had long matted hair that dragged on the ground. It was so long. Very fashionable. Very different than Rajalila's fashion. And then he went, saw the deities and came back out. He came back the next day alone. And he said it in Hindi. The book distributor was a Russian girl, so it was through a translator. He said, my whole life I've been teaching Bhagavad Gita, but I never understood it. I never understood that I didn't understand it until I read this. I was up all night reading this Bhagavad Gita. It's wonderful. Let me have some of those other books. So, a meditator, yogi, jnani, or whatever he was, or mixture of things, some bhakti makes it possible to go further in the bhakti process in association with devotees through Prabhupada's book. So it's a great opportunity, especially because Prabhupada has made it much simpler than some of these commentaries that we're reading, for new people to get a glimpse of and have hope in going forward in the bhakti process. But say it negatively, there's so many people out there that have never had that opportunity. I can share this from, book distribution experiences. Traveling in a van literally across the country multiple times. And it's a big country. There's a lot of people out there. And a lot of people have never met a devotee. Parma Karuna was sharing this with me. When the COVID thing happened, they started a thing of going to Walmarts. And it was all the way up in that part of Michigan that's Upper Peninsula, I think it's called. Maybe it's Wisconsin. Upper Peninsula. There's some sections like, no one's been there. And everyone took a book. There weren't as many people, but, they're very simple. And what's the opportunity for them to make a contact? Probably through internet. That's the other option. But somehow introducing people to Krishna consciousness is fun. It's his challenge. And then the hard part is to have them, give them association so they can move forward, and give them association best if there's clarity on what our teachings are. Yes? And there's a lot required to get clarity in what our teachings are. And it's not just knowledge, information kind of knowledge, but it's a purity of heart kind of knowledge that brings about transmission of Krishna conscious knowledge and the potency to have it transmitted then with the receivers on. And some people have their receivers on, some people don't. But whether it's that their past has an abundant amount of bhakti or not, even just a little beginning is a beginning. And for people that have a little more than a beginning, then they get a little more than a beginning, and so forth. The flow of Krishna Tattva, the sound vibration of the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, together with, of course, Krishna Prasadam and the holy name, that's the three main prongs that help people go forward. There's further things, of course. But making that opportunity available, that's Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. But to do the Sankirtan movement part properly, having a clear understanding of this message, and as far as possible, being able to address questions that other people have, because that will help them remove their doubts or become settled in obstacles, overcoming their obstacles. I just got 2 letters from China, making it light because this is really heavy stuff. I got 3 letters. I didn't read the 4th and the 5th one. It's really busy. But 3 people in their 30s and 40s. They're all ladies. That's how it is in China. Rarely, almost all ladies. But Taoism and Buddhism and thisism and thatism and practicing and following and so forth. And then along came Bhagavad Gita. And Zoom quickly, chanting 16 rounds and offering their food, and for some becoming vegetarian is a bit of a struggle. Some it's not. But when there's some prior sense control and some orientation towards spirituality, it helps. It can also be a hindrance if somebody becomes stuck in this and that form and this mode and that culture and things like that. But with a little association, just with Prabhupada's books and the nice chanting of the holy name, people from all over the world, in all different backgrounds and cultures. Then comes the refinement process. As we spoke on Saturday night about developing good qualities, human qualities. But the bhakti process has the power to carry us there. And good association helps us get there. In fact, it's essential. So we need to become good association for others, right? And receive good association when we have it available to us. And study Prabhupada's books carefully. This 14th chapter is really long, and I'm not sure if I'm going to continue it because it's that the philosophical content is. I'm not sure it's going to be really appealing to everybody. What you making? What is it? Do you have a name for it? Stitching. Not making something, just stitching. Okay. 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 The letter Y. Okay. Okay. So let's see if there's any discussion. Yes? Hare Krishna. Ah. On book distribution, some people take it and make progress right away.
So
And
is it their previous like piety? Is that what?
not just
drives-
piety, previous devotional service. Commonly, it's previous. This is Rupa Goswami, by the way.
Is it also the faith that they have by reading those books?
Yes, faith may have been covered by all kinds of dirty things, but it gets restored quickly by contact with something that's pure.
And like also, do we have any process to like bring them like we have process on book distribution, but after we give them books, like what are
What's
things
next?
that we can do so that they can give like devotee association and other things so that they can actually.
That's a
come
big
to-
topic. There's systems, there's seminars on that topic. And, it's follow up. But do I need to go? You want me to talk to you about follow up? Like, what are some of the systems?
Yeah, I just wanted to know if there is like one or two things that we can.
One or two
tackle.
steps. It depends on if there's an organized effort or it's a solo effort. And if you want a solo effort, I mean, one person that's very proximate is Acharya Nishta. That's what he does. He follows up. And he has people, because he travels, he has people in different places. But he has different ways of following up. And it's something that before there was internet and all that other stuff, it just, a personal practice that I would use is 3. In the course of the day, everybody gets a chance. Mercy goes out to everybody. In the course of the day, there's going to be 2, 3, 4 people that are really special. And I want to reach out to those 2, 3, 4 people. And then of those 2, 3, 4 people, in the course of a week, maybe one will actually do something because they get distracted and whatever. So just keep in touch with people. And then some continue and some drop out. So you, according to your style and your time constraints and what inspires you, you find a way that works for you. Or in some places, there's a team that's what they do, is they do follow-up. As soon as a name is given to the team, then they have their system. They do follow-up. And it doesn't have to be a full-time person. It can be a full-time person. But it can just be a part-time person. So names are given to so-and-so. And the so-and-so has a system. It's kind of like sending out tax-exempt receipts to people who give donations. Somebody does that. It doesn't have to be the person that takes the money to the bank. But somebody does that. So somebody's, or like, in in churches. I requested somebody some years ago to do guest reception. So what they decided to do is they went to 3 different places. They went to a Catholic, a Protestant, and a synagogue, assembly place to see what they do. And then, one of the places, within 24 hours after they went to the assembly, as church, whatever it was, they got a little something that said, "Oh, thank you for coming. So nice. We look forward to seeing you again." So it was like, wow, they're organized, and they mean it. They care. So whatever works on a personal or group level, follow-up is real important. Relationships are real important. And people discount relationships. So, anything else?
Atulya Mataji is asking, Maharaj, recently a new person invited to mantra meditation with Mahamantra expressed I was religious and not spiritual. What are your thoughts on this, and how can such conception be realigned?
Advaita Chandra or Krishna Priya, it might have been Krishna Priya, put together a whole really nifty little package on spiritual religious. And I can send you, if you remind me, I can send you that PowerPoint. It's pretty simple. And the points in response are there. And I could, recreate the thing, but it's much simpler just to send you the PowerPoint because all the points are there. It's nicely done. It's not complicated. It's very straight and simple.
Amar Mataji asks, Hare Krishna Maharaj, many times we might, looks like she has 2 questions. Many times we might have remembrance of Krishna, but may make wrong judgments or decisions. Could you kindly elaborate on how illusion and forgetfulness of Krishna are related? How illusion and forgetfulness of Krishna are related.
Do you understand the connection between the preamble and the question itself?
I think what she's trying to say is that we might be remembering Krishna but make wrong decisions
That says in the first
based
part, yeah.
on illusion. Or it's a symptom of being an illusion because we're making wrong decisions. And then asking, could you kindly elaborate on how illusion and forgetfulness of Krishna are related? I'll ask if that's what the question is.
It takes a while sometimes to understand her questions. Huh? No, let me. How illusion and forgetfulness of Krishna, but you're saying she's remembering Krishna and makes wrong decisions. I'm sorry, I can't put the 2. Can you put the 2 together? You have any comment on her question? You follow the question? No. Okay. So we can be illusion that we're remembering Krishna, and therefore we make mistakes.
We think we're doing it for Krishna.
She confirmed my understanding that we're remembering Krishna, and so we make a decision and that decision or that judgment is wrong, she understands that as being a symptom of illusion. So how is it?
That's not a symptom of illusion. You're a fallible being. It's a symptom of your fallibility. And so when you make a decision trying to think of Krishna and you recognize it wasn't a good decision, you do a course correction because you want to get to Krishna.
Question 2. We just started a japa call with 2 new persons where we chant around and read, quote, on the way to Krishna. What should be our considerations for choosing a book to read and what to share?
Ask them. Give them some options and say, this is what's over here and that's what's over there, and then another thing is over in that other place. What are you attracted to? And then you read that. It's a nice way that already has a menu built into it is Science of Self-Realization. There's an index in the front, and then there's headings, and then there's subheadings under those headings. And if there's something they're interested, you can read those things they're interested in. That's another. Let them pick. And then they own it. They picked it.
Shriyalika has 3 questions. You had mentioned we've introduced people to Krishna consciousness and then come to the refinement process, like you spoke on Saturday, development of qualities of a human being. So question 1, is Anartha Nivritti the longest part of the journey from Abhas to Shuddha Bhakti?
That's been my experience.
Question 2, does the ride become more smooth once Anarthas are almost destroyed to
Oh,
nil?
yeah.
Question 3, from personal experience, this part of the journey is so arduous.
Yes.
And there are unlimited layers of refinement needed.
Yes.
Even the veterans indicate that they have many miles of anarthas to purify.
Yes.
I know there isn't an alternative or a shortcut,
Yes, that's right.
but
What should I do?
how to be encouraging
Okay.
how to be encouraging to new persons to take up the process, while I myself am struggling 17 years after having taken up the process to even just come to the platform of being a human being.
Well, don't pretend that you're something that you're not. Just, but you with your sincerity of purpose will be compelling. That a new person that wants to stick around will be attracted to a person who has good character, even if there's, they're less than a perfect being, very sincere and humble individual. So go for those basic characteristics and qualities, and that will help attract people. Go ahead.
Sanchari, Krishna's mercy is incomparable, and as you read, looks for opportunities to give his mercy. It's available through so many avenues.
I'm distracted. Our students over here with their pad and paper. Oh, sorry. Go back to the beginning, Sanchari's question.
I think people online should see this.
That's our students over here. That's what we're chuckling about. Okay, go ahead. Enough laughter. No more fun. Let's keep going.
Okay. Krishna's mercy is incomparable, and as you read, he looks for opportunities to give his mercy.
Isn't it nice? Yeah, go ahead.
It's available through so many avenues. Thinking particularly of service, why is it that there are some services we feel called to do or that just fit better than others? The mercy comes in so many avenues.
So we have our psychophysical nature. Some like it hot, some like it cold. And there's another part to that story. Modes of nature. Some like it in the pot, 3 days old. You know what mode that one is. Wow. I'm getting giddy. Go ahead.
Is creating attachment to a particular service an incorrect attitude towards Krishna's kindness?
I'm losing it. Gravity went out the window. It's been a long day. You say it again?
So Krishna's mercy coming as service. Is creating attachment to a particular service an incorrect attitude towards Krishna's kindness?
Yeah. And there are things that you're not attached to, and you do those too. And that's a sign of service to Krishna too. And receiving his mercy.
Here's the third question. How do we see Krishna's kindness in instances where we may no longer have access to that service? I guess I'm asking, how do we see Krishna's kindness when that service or some inspiration you're attached to in Krishna consciousness is taken away?
Well, it sounds like COVID. I mean, so many things that we've all been just part of our bhakti life and not there now. So how do you process that? Well, you find Krishna's going to give you access to him in some other way, and you do that some other way.
Rama Raghava Prabhu asks, reading should translate to devotional service, which in turn should translate to action.
What's the difference between devotional service and action? Rama Raghava, what's the difference between number 2 and number 3? Reading leads to, devotional service leads to action. What's the difference between devotional service and action? Excuse me for interrupting. What's the rest of the question?
I find it hard to put all that I read on a recurring calendar appointment. Am I not applying the principle correctly? Or I have a misunderstanding of the principle regarding the principle itself.
I don't understand your question. I mean, you start somewhere and you do that something somewhere, and you do that with some regularity. And as you understand more, you take a step and you do a little bit further. So you just move in steps. And if you feel you're not really clear about principle, you ask. And then apply what you've understood. Isn't that so complicated?
I had a follow-up and also related to this, but a follow-up on my question from yesterday because I was thinking about your response a little bit further, the controversy question.
And I'm thinking about our students over here too.
Yeah. Yes, for their benefit.
Maybe
as
they'll
well.
have some comment to make after I can.
Right. And so I was, because the example you gave in your response was Nanda Maharaj's cows and how the numbers differed, right? And how, okay, so different shastras or acharyas may say
Yeah, yes,
different things.
yes.
So I was thinking, like, in a separate example, like when it comes to philosophy, like, for example, like topics that people love debating, like the fall of the jiva, or like, question things like that where acharyas say differently. I, for one, have come to understand that, like you said, we have like with our binary processor, we can't understand certain things. But, and not like when I have other, like you're just sharing, to learn our books so well so that when someone else comes with questions, we can answer. Like I feel fine knowing that, there are so many people in the movement who are smarter than I, who accept this, and I trust that there are answers to questions that I don't know.
Good.
So do I pass that on to someone? Like, what if for someone else that's not enough? Like, they don't have that.
Well, if there's someone else that says that's not enough, then you send them to somebody that's you. It's not just smarter than you, but has a greater depth of bhakti and grasp of the bhakti teachings than you do. So so you're not an acharya, you're a bhakta, and you can give a bhakta answer. And if they want an acharya answer, they go to acharyas and get acharya answers. And even amongst acharyas, you're going to get diversity. And you don't have to clue them in. You're going to get diversity, but they'll find that out quick enough. Many things. You ask a question, you ask three or four people, and you're not going to get an identical answer commonly. But that's okay. So back to your question, which is, if you speak something that you haven't yet fully grasped and have full realization of, and you're speaking to someone that your limited grasp and realization is not adequate for them, what should you do? That's your question. You refer them to somebody that knows more on that topic. But, at least you can express, this is what I'm convinced about. I'll give a little example. This is from when I was still in college. And I was reading books. And one of the books I was reading was a Sufi book. And in the Sufi book, there's a really clear description of a Sufi, saint describing the form of Krishna. So I had, I went to visit a devotee who I had respect for. I went all the way to Toronto from Buffalo to visit this devotee. And, I had my Stump the Swami questions for him. And it was like, little ones. And then finally there was this one. How does Sufi can understand Krishna's form? Here it is. The Sufi book, here's the page. And he thought and said, I don't have the answer to that, but this much I know. And it was very humble. He said, I have full faith that Prabhupada will take me to Krishna. And it was a very powerful lesson. My college, smart aleck ego just went, get totally deflated. I was very humbled by his humility and his faith. So, I don't have the answer to your question, but this much I have all faith in. So again, that's a little bit like this other question of the most important quality when helping to introduce people is your own sincerity and your own little devotional quality, like starting with humility and simplicity and truthfulness, and that's compelling. And smarts isn't just compelling. Okay. We're done. We have more.
This is from Girivaradharidas. If misfortunes are opportunities of gratitude,
Wait a minute. Say it again. If?
if misfortunes are opportunities for gratitude,
Okay, okay.
not looking at it in this way, not looking at it in this way, is it ignorance of Krishna?
Yeah. And instead of knowledge of Krishna, it's selfishness. If Krishna is at the center, then I'm at the center. And I'm at the center. So Krishna is not in the picture. Good. That's it. Prabhupada ki jai. Is that your daughter? Is your son crying, or who is